Good evening, I'm Matt Volz, and welcome to Sports Hour on WNYF. We've got a little bit of a packed show tonight. To start off, I'm joined by Jenna Polito to talk about the NHL. The Sabres are currently in action at the end of the first period. They lead the Ottawa Senators 2-0. Jenna, you and I were talking about it before the show. Of course, the Sabres still in last place in not only the Atlantic Division, but the Eastern Conference as a whole.
Yes.
But mathematically, they still have a chance.
It's not impossible. I mean, if you look at it, not counting tonight, we have 8 games left. In those 8 games, what we would need to do is we would need to win out. We would need to get a little bit of help from other teams within our division. But, I mean, if we're looking at it numerically, we are only 9 points away from a wild card spot. So, I mean...
Which seems insane given the fact that they are in last place in the entire conference right now.
It's insane. I mean, like... The Sabres always do something like this where, you know, we will go on these losing streaks, these 10, 13-game losing streaks, and then towards the end of the season where there is almost no chance, I believe it's like 29 or lower % chance that we could even make it, then we start to actually perform and be the team that we want. I mean, I think it was a Philadelphia Flyers game or something. Lindy Ruff benched Zach Benson because of his, like, kind of stupid penalties that he's been getting, and I don't know where that kind of coaching style or just those hard decisions were made earlier in the season, but we definitely needed that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a Sabres team. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. They're 6-3 in their last 9, and their most recent game on Sunday against a Washington Capitals team that has already clinched a playoff spot, the Sabres hung 8 goals on them and won that game 8-5. Buffalo's offense has really not been the issue for most of this year. I also remarked before the show that at 5-on-5, I don't remember the exact number, I think it's changed since the last time I looked at it, but at 5-on-5, Buffalo's offense is one of the top scoring units in the league. The Sabres have proven that they can score goals at even strength. The problem is their penalty kill, once again, has been a disaster because they're going with this strategy of having pretend playtime coaches from the AHL run that unit, and the penalty kill has been equally just as bad. If they had respectable special teams units, and if the defense wasn't royally terrible, and if Luukkonen didn't have a down year, maybe they'd be competing for a playoff spot, Jenna.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about it a little, like, Luukkonen hasn't really been having that great of a season. What has really helped a little bit is the addition of James Reimer in that goalie position. I mean, he's been playing a little bit more than I think any of us expected him to a little bit. But yeah, going back to the Capitals, before our game where we won 8-6, 8-5, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, 8-5.
That was the first time, I don't think the Capitals have given up that many goals in a season. So again, yeah, the offense has not really been the problem. I mean, you look at the Flyers game, we did lose that, but we're still putting up 4 goals a night. I mean, it's confusing to think about the position we're in.
It really is. I mean, it just goes to show again that Buffalo's offense hasn't really been too much of the problem. It's been the defense in front of Luukkonen, and it's been the struggles of Luukkonen, but more than that, it's been their penalty kill. And as Jenna mentioned, they've had those stretches where they just haven't played well. They've had several games. I mean, offensively, they can score 4 goals a game, but they've had several games where the offense hasn't shown up. When they beat Ottawa at home last Tuesday night, I was at the game, and I said to everyone I was talking to that there is no way Buffalo deserved to win that game. But they did. There's been a few games as well that Buffalo has maybe deserved to win, and they haven't. But there's been more, I would say, that there's been games where Sabres just plain haven't shown up. So it's just that level of consistency that Buffalo has been so desperately missing for several years has been a struggle point for the team, Jenna.
Yeah, I mean, going off again, it's not a problem about our regulation. I think we have the same amount of regulation wins and a better point differential than the Canadians, who are in a playoff spot. They haven't clinched it yet, but they are about to. It's just our power play and our penalty kill. I looked it up. I'm pretty sure we're at 18.4% on our power play, which is unacceptable. Going into this, I think this is really what we need to address, especially on the off season. I know we've been saying that for the past couple of years, but I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the power play unit, think about the level of talent the Sabres do have offensively. You think about Tage Thompson, who's going to be well over the 40-goal mark. Alex Tuck, who scored a goal in the first period tonight and may hit the 30-goal mark. You're going to have several 20-goal scorers. J.J. Paterka will hit 20. Ryan McLeod is going to hit 20. You've got some. Jack Quinn may also hit 20, even though he looked cooked for the majority of the season. Look at the talent to score goals that Buffalo has on their roster, and then wonder, why is that talent not being maximized on the man advantage? And I really think Buffalo needs a change on the bench. Now, when I say that, that does not have anything to do with Lindy Ruff. I think the Sabres need to bring in assistant coaches who know how to run a power play unit, not Matt Ellis because he knows how Kevin Adams likes his coffee. A real assistant coach who can actually effectively run a power play, not just someone who is best buddies with the 22-year-old players in Rochester.
Yeah, it's just confusing, especially when you look at these games like the Capitals game.
Yeah.
What I am happy about in that game, though, is I believe Ovechkin scored twice, which he is 5 goals away from beating Wayne Gretzky's.
From breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record. And he won't break it against the Sabres, which is promising because it feels like absolutely everyone puts up record-setting performances against Buffalo, or someone usually is making their debut and is inevitably going to score a goal against the Sabres, something like that. Not that it's particularly difficult to score a goal against the Sabres, but just tossing that out there, although the Ottawa Senators haven't so far tonight.
That is true.
And I was listening to WGR on my way over here as well, and I guess I didn't realize that if the Sabres win tonight, that's a season sweep of Ottawa. They've beat them every time they've played so far this year, including just last Tuesday in Buffalo, which was a game the Sabres won 3-2 and did not probably deserve to win that game. One of the main reasons they did was how well James Reimer played in net, and you just mentioned it a minute ago that Reimer has been incredible in net for the Sabres over the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen Luukkonen play. Luukkonen played against the Flyers and had a miserable game. But other than that, it's been Reimer the last several games, and Reimer's been really good in net.
Yeah, it's exhausting being a Sabres fan, especially we are coming up on, nothing for certain, but coming up on 14 years out of the playoffs. It's just a lot to think about. We can always theorize about where we're going wrong, what we need to do better, but at this point, it's kind of just more about the action and what we are actually able to do on the ice. And I don't know, it's a lot of talk that is coming from the upper management. You have these players, like you said, we have a lot of great talent and we have a lot of ambition and drive on this team. I think it was a statement from Dylan Cousins that just came out. He wanted to be on this team and he wanted to win with this team, with his teammates, but it just didn't happen. And on the Senators, he's actually doing pretty good. I'm liking his performance.
Yeah, and it's a level of his game really that's kind of been unlocked that Sabres fans have been waiting for so long. I've said before on the show that it's not a question that it's not saying, oh, these players just don't want to win. Of course they want to win. Everybody wants to win. The problem is I don't know that the Sabres really were willing to put in the work all season long to get to where they need to get to in order to win.
Yeah, it's just
it's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating because now you're sitting here after tonight. There's 8 games left in the season. And as you mentioned, we do the same old song and dance every single year where once they're too far out of the playoffs, then the Sabres all of a sudden go on a roll. And I'm flat out saying if the Sabres' first round pick is not a top 2 pick, trade it.
That's what I think. I mean,
easily trade it.
Our next game on Saturday is against Tampa Bay. And Tampa is, as we could have expected, they are doing pretty well. However, then we go on to play Boston, which, if I believe, Boston is 7th in the Atlantic, and they're only like 1 or 2 points.
Only 1 point ahead of the Sabres, yeah.
So we'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's fun to even think about the concept of possibly maybe being close to possibly having a shot at maybe having a chance at making the playoffs. And there's a reason I strung that out as long as I did. And it's exciting to think about, can you imagine if Buffalo was in the thick of a playoff race? If, let's say, the Sabres went into tonight and, okay, we're 2 points out of a playoff spot with 8 games left to go instead of 9 out.
It would be unbelievable. I mean, a lot of the stories that we're hearing now, these longtime season ticket holders, when they're getting calls asking to renew for the next year, they are saying no. And for the first time in decades, they are not going to have season tickets because they just can't really trust the Sabres anymore.
No, you can't, absolutely, and it's the same thing every single year. So we'll see how the rest of the game goes tonight. The second period did just start. Buffalo is ahead 2-0. We'll update you as that score changes throughout the night. Well, thanks for joining me, Jenna. Again, we've got other segments to get to tonight. Jack Hoadley's going to be joining me to talk about Major League Baseball next. I'm Matt Volson. You're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
We've been down there. No time, just sign on the line at the post office for selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time, just sign on the line at the post office for Selective Service.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Volz. I'm now joined by Jack Hoadley to talk about Major League Baseball as the season is now underway, a little bit less than a week into the campaign. And Jack, you had an interesting thing because, of course, you are a Yankees fan. And a lot has been made about the Yankees' hot start to the season, but specifically the hot offensive start and the type of bats that are being used.
Yeah, 3 players on the team have used a new bat that they like to call the torpedo bat, is what it's been going around as being called. It was engineered by an MIT grad, I believe, which is pretty impressive. That's what a lot of people think is like the reason for the Yankees' offensive success this year. I would more blame the fact that the Brewers don't look particularly good to start the year, but we'll certainly see how it shapes up down the stretch. And a lot of other teams have actually adapted the torpedo bats tonight even.
Yeah, absolutely. The Milwaukee Brewers having a rough start to the season is music to my ears as a St. Louis Cardinals fan who have also had a unexpected solid start to the season. But yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to be made of these bats, to see really how much of an impact they have. It also could be the start of another evolution of the game. I mean, I think about all of the changes that were made to the shift defensively, you know, when the shift was incorporated and it was banned. All of these sort of, you know, sabermetrics things and all sort of different intricacies with baseball. When they first come about, a lot of people say, oh, this is ridiculous, this is going away from the game. And then it's adopted and becomes a normal part of the game. For example, the shift was recently banned. And I'm wondering if these torpedo bats, if it's seen to have an impact, I'm wondering if the bats are going to start to be more regularly used.
I think they should be regularly used. I don't think that they actually provide that much of an advantage to your average team. I think that you've seen teams, even yesterday, I think the Twins have been using them, and they are 0-4 to start the season. They've only scored, I think, 5 runs. at this point in the year, which is not impressive at all through like 3 or 4 games into your year. And I don't think that they have that much of an impact. I think people try to discredit how good the Yankees are as hitting and why a player like Anthony Volpe couldn't take a jump from year 2 to 3 is beyond me. But I don't know. I think as time goes on, this will die down a lot, and people will start to realize just how much it's more of the Yankees than it is the bat.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's going to be something where it's just a different type of bat that's used. You might see some teams incorporate it, some individual players choosing to use the torpedo bats, some players choosing to use the older, more traditional bats, and it just becomes a matter of personal preference. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. And again, we'll see how much, because these torpedo bats are a very new thing. We'll see how much of an impact they have. We'll see how many players and teams decide to use it. I know the Yankees haven't been the only ones. Ellie De La Cruz for the Cincinnati Reds, he had something like 7 RBIs the other day using the bat. So we'll see if it really makes any kind of a difference in our game.
Absolutely, and not that this adds to my case of them not having much of an impact, but the Yankees are currently tied 2-2 with the Diamondbacks in the 4th. And they have 2 home runs as their 2 runs, one by torpedo bat user Anthony Volpe. I'm not sure if Jason Dominguez uses it, but seeing him hit a home run is great because if the Yankees are going to keep this hot batting up, they're going to need their young guys to do so. And so far they have. Ben Rice also has a double tonight, so that's 3 hits from 3 guys under 25, which I think is awesome for the Yankees and a good reason why they're starting so strong.
Yeah, for sure. And you look at the depth that they have to the Yankees. It's not just Judge, it's not just Stanton, it's not just Jazz Chisholm. They also have those younger guys, like you mentioned, like Anthony Volpe, like Jason Dominguez. Those are players that they're going to have to rely on, especially with, pitching-wise, the injury to Garrett Cole. And we'll see how things sort of shake out with that in the Yankees rotation. But they're going to really need to rely on that depth, especially considering the fact that they play in a division that is brutal. The American League East, there is no case for a better division in baseball. I mean, without question, the best division in the league. You might have 4 playoff teams from that division alone.
There might not be a better division in professional American sports, let alone entire sports right now. I mean, those 5 teams are locked into an absolute dogfight right now, with the Red Sox somehow being 0-4, which is beyond me. As a Yankees fan, I was scared of them this year. They had just extended Garrett Crochet last night. And I think it's remarkable that this division has been as good as they have been for so long, too. The Orioles obviously weren't great up until a few years ago, but all these other teams have been competitive for a while. They've been giving me problems as a Yankees fan, and I don't know. It's going to be an interesting division to see. We're only 4 games in of 162, but we'll keep the bold takes away for now. But I think that this is really going to be probably a division, like you said, with 4 playoff teams. Yeah, definitely. It is very surprising to see the Red Sox struggle early in their year, and they're the team that my St. Louis Cardinals play next. They play at Fenway this weekend, so I'm interested to see how that shakes out. But, Jack, I wanted to get your thoughts on some teams who you think are going to be near the top of the playoffs. Obviously, the Yankees, obviously the Dodgers are going to be up there, but other teams that you sort of have your eye on and are thinking about. Absolutely. I think that a team that I'm looking at closely, and I believe the Yankees played them in a playoff series last year. I believe it's the Detroit Tigers are actually one that I think could be really good this year, especially if they make a move closer to the deadline. I think Tariq Skubal's a really good pitcher. I think Riley Green is going to have a nice breakout season for them. It's the Tigers and then the Texas Rangers, I think, are the 2 teams that are going to win those other 2 divisions in the AL. And I think it's going to be a really fun baseball season for a lot of people, just following the sport, because there's so many good teams. There's definitely an imbalance because, you have teams that are at the bottom of the barrel, like the Marlins, the White Sox, the Colorado Rockies. But then you have teams that, like the Rangers and like the Tigers, that I think are going to come out of the AL and probably have a pretty nice, competition for teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the big spenders. You have to mention the Mets. I have a sore taste in my mouth because they took Juan Soto from us. And, hey, they're starting off 2-2, we're 3-0. There's 162 games, so we're not going to go too crazy yet. I'm not one of those Yankees fans who like hates Juan Soto, but I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah.
And then I would throw the Phillies in there as well. I think they're going to be a really good team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually agreed spot on with your other American League division picks as well. I think the AL Central is going to be a pretty good battle, and even though the Tigers are off to a 1-3 start, they were a young team that had a great season last year. I think they will continue to improve. And then the AL West, the Rangers had a down season last year after winning the World Series in 2023. I think they're a team that definitely rebounds, although I will say the Angels so far early in the season, I know we're only in game 5 of 162 tonight. So far, the Angels have looked decent, so it's something interesting to watch. In the NL East, I agree with you. I think the Phillies are still the top team in that division. The Braves off to an 0-5 start is definitely very surprising. That's kind of weird. And then the Dodgers. I mean, what else can you say about the Dodgers, who have bought absolutely everyone that there is to buy at this point, except maybe Juan Soto and... what else? Yeah.
Is there a better acquisition after winning a championship than Blake Snell? I don't even understand it. But back to what you're talking about with the Braves, I don't even think 0-5 really justifies it. I mean, Jerickson Profar got suspended yesterday evening, I believe, for using performance-enhancing drugs after he was labeled a bust and then had a really good season and then signed with the contending Braves. They look lost right now on a lot of sides of the ball. They have a -15 differential in their scoring. They've allowed 23 runs, only scored 8 for this team that's supposed to be really good batting. It's really bad right now in Atlanta. That's like my biggest surprise of the season, along with your Cardinals, I think, being so good. But yeah, the Braves are definitely a shock and a team that I expected. I actually had them winning the NL this season.
Yeah, the Braves are a team I've been high on really ever since they won the World Series in 2021, and it just seems like it's been every year a little bit steadier of a decline. And I know they had the injury to Acuna, but in the past, but it's like they have Ronald Acuna Jr., they have Ozzie Albies, they have other good players on that team. And I understand you're playing in a division with the Phillies, who are a very good team as well, and the Mets, who had a great offseason, and the Mets also look like they're pretty good. But it's surprising to see Atlanta as bad as they've been. I mean, averaging just over a run and a half per game is really low for an offense with the talent that they've got. So it's for sure surprising. And there's other teams, too, that may be in the mix in the National League. I'm not really, obviously it's way too early to tell. The Arizona Diamondbacks were a team that was in the World Series 2 years ago. They kind of, went backwards a little bit last year. They're a very young team still. I wonder if Arizona could flirt with a wild card spot. They're not going anywhere near the National League West title. That is the Dodgers' hook, line, and sinker. Even though I think the Padres are a playoff team, they're not going near the Dodgers. And then you look at the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are a team that it's like impossible to predict every single year. Are they going to be a playoff team? Are they going to win 70 games? Are they going to win 107 games like they randomly did in, 2021? Out of nowhere. So, I don't know. It's interesting to predict those teams, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be a very fun season, and a lot of baseball fans are probably saying, please don't have the two most hated teams play in the World Series again, but you couldn't get any different. I mean, the last two World Series, you had the Dodgers and Yankees last year. And then the year before that, you had Texas and Arizona, two smaller market teams who had been not good for several years.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're asking me, I would love that World Series rematch. I would. I mean, it's like you could get the revenge story in there.
Yeah.
You spoke about the Diamondbacks. They are now down 4-2 to the Yankees after a couple throwing errors, I believe, from the Diamondbacks. So that's not the Yankees brand of baseball. I thought there was 2 more home runs when I looked at the score, but that's the update there. And then, I don't know. The Brewers, I mean, they were talking a lot of smack about the torpedo bats this weekend, which I thought was crazy. Their pitcher, I believe, Hobie Milner, or it was one of their relief pitchers, was talking a lot about it. My strategy wouldn't be to throw down the middle to Aaron Judge, but I guess that's why they've allowed 47 runs through this point in the season, which is ridiculous through 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Brewers are a team that's sort of been synonymous with really good pitching recently. They had Corbin Burns, of course. He's now gone. But the Brewers are still a team that supposedly was supposed to be very good, and they're off to a rough start, although I wouldn't want to play the Yankees to start the year.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I would not want to be playing against them. Well, thanks for joining me, Jack.
Absolutely.
Good luck to your Yankees, and again, always great talking to you. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Lily Hauer is going to join me to talk about the Bandits' loss to Vancouver on Saturday and the rest of their season. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
To Sofia and Gabriel, mis flores, my little flowers. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love, so you can take me with you wherever you go, near or far. These stitches and threads join us together. Me, your mother, and both of you. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Volz. I'm now joined by Lily Hauer to talk about the Buffalo Bandits, and a rough one over the weekend as the Bandits suffered their second straight one-goal loss, falling to the Vancouver Warriors 13-12 at home.
At home.
At home. Lily, were you at the game on Saturday?
I was. My mom
I was as
surprised
well,
me.
yeah.
It was her birthday, and she
Oh.
wanted to take me with her for her birthday. So she was like, hey, you can just take Dad's season tickets. So I went with her. Not a very happy birthday for my mom.
No.
Buffalo. Don't really know what you're doing with that. It's so disappointing. We could have clinched a home playoff spot with this win, which home field advantage in any sport, huge, especially in Banditland. If you are coming into Banditland, watch out, because the fans are brutal. We're awesome. We're brutal. And it's a completely different atmosphere that no one is prepared for. So that was really tough to see that loss. Yeah, obviously we knew going in that Christian Del Bianco is an insane goalie, and he is such a powerhouse. But he wasn't the only player who was making us look not great out there at all. It was just a really rough 4 quarters. The whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned that your mom's birthday was on Saturday. Happy birthday to Lily's mom, of course. It's funny because the Bandits' final home game of the regular season is my mom's birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So ironic. It's funny how things happen on Sports Hour.
Hopefully they can win for her.
I sure hope so. I also do want to give a quick update. The Sabres did just score, so they are up now 3-0.
See, Bandits?
On the Ottawa Senators. So offense for sure. And I know the Bandits offense was something that you wanted to talk about. I know they did score 12, but there are a few players that have not been firing as much as you would hope.
No. Dane Smith, I feel like a broken record. Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Tehoka Nanticoke, Chase Fraser. Chase Fraser has been putting up like a solid goal per game if you do see him up on that the scoreboard, but not your typical Chase Fraser. Tehoka's been kind of quiet again. My thought, and I think a lot of Buffalo would agree with me on this,
Dane Smith is not the only person who can take a shot, and he has proven time and time again that his shots are not the most reliable. So my question is, when we have players like Kyle Buchanan or Ian McKay who have been holding this team up this season, why are the only people we can pass to? Why are they only Dane Smith and Josh Byrne? Like, I get it, they're talented, but they're not our only source for scoring.
Yeah, I agree. I think the offense has gotten a little bit too predictable. They're trying to only fire it with Dane Smith and Josh Byrne, and of course, why not? I mean, those guys are the top two offensive players besides Jeff Teat in the entire league. But I will say that you've got other talent. I mean, Chase Frazier is usually good for 2 goals a game. Tehoka Nanticoke's usually good for at least 1 a game. You know, you've got other offensive weapons in there. Ian McKay, as you mentioned, Ian McKay scored 30 goals this year for the Bandits. So I would love to see a more spread out attack. I've talked about it a lot on Sports Hour this year, that I think the key to winning is to diversify your attack, and that's what makes the Bandits so successful. The problem is they've, like you said, Lily, they've been a little bit too predictable offensively, and the offense, some key players just kind of disappeared from the game on Saturday. Josh Byrne didn't score his first goal of the game till the 4th quarter, which was incredibly surprising. When he did score that goal, everyone sitting in section 123 with me, we kind of looked at each other and we said, was that Josh's first of the game?
Yeah, that's how we were thinking too. And then he came like pretty much right after with the back-to-back, which is crazy. I thought we had it at that point. And I was feeling a little too confident because that whole game, it's been a typical thing with the Bandits is that we have gone way, like our games, we haven't had like a steady lead in our wins since January against Philly and February against the Firewolves, I believe. So that, I mean, it's April. Like that game was end of March. I don't know what we're thinking. I think we need to do some like serious changing up. Like you said, definitely too predictable. Don't change stuff up as we get into the playoffs. Like, we need to start making stuff click now, because if you start changing stuff up right in the playoffs, it doesn't work out for you, you're done. Like, you're out. So this is now like the experimental time, and I understand that. I don't like where we're at right now. It's so frustrating because I know that they have the talent and they can three-peat, but it's not clicking.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it doesn't get any easier from here the rest of the way out, and that's not even just saying playoffs. Before the Bandits even get there, their last 3 games are all against teams that, as of right now, are in playoff spots, and 2 of those games are on the road. They're at Colorado against the Mammoth on Saturday. Then their last 2 games, April 12th at home against Halifax, who is right behind Buffalo in the standings, and right behind Saskatchewan, I should say, because Buffalo and Saskatchewan are tied. And then the last game of the season is at Georgia, who's another playoff team, of course, with Lyle Thompson, who's always a threat. And those games, it doesn't get easier. Vancouver was their worst opponent that they play the rest of the season. So, not sure. Although I will say this, if we're looking to compare it to last year, midway through the season in March, a lot of people thought there's no way the Bandits are going back-to-back. They lost an overtime game on the road in March that propelled them. That was kind of what fueled them, propelled them to their run. That was against Vancouver.
Oh, that's very true, actually.
Yeah. So, I'm not trying to be prophetic, I'll say, but maybe. Maybe.
Hey, if that works, maybe this is like the little kick that they needed to really realize that, hey, this is a middle-of-the-road team. Vancouver is not that good. So, to go up against these kind of semi-decent teams, especially, I'm really nervous for Colorado this weekend because they're in Colorado, again, with the home field advantage. It is something. And they also just lost to, I believe, Saskatchewan on the same night that the Bandits lost. So they're going to be ready to win. Oh God, I don't know. The Bandits, I think every team going into the Bandits, like facing against them, they try to put their best foot forward. And, you know, some of these not so great teams have put their best foot forward and it's been much better than ours. So I am a little bit worried about how Colorado is going to show up. it's oh God, it's so heartbreaking. And even like Johnny Tavares has said, he's like, you know, I think that they played well. It's just we need to like stay out of the box and we need to, you know, like keep fighting through the whole game. Stay out of the box, guys. I don't stop taking stupid penalties. If you are a captain or an assistant captain, stay out of the box.
That's a great point that you bring up. We talked about a couple of weeks ago when Steve Priolo had 16 penalty minutes in one game, and yet another issue of a leader taking a stupid penalty. Nick Weiss was called for a boarding call, which, to be completely honest, he could have gotten thrown out of the game. I mean, it was a completely unnecessary blindside hit, and he could have been thrown out of the game. Vancouver scored twice on that 5-minute power play.
Right.
So those are the type of mistakes that can lose you games. In a game that's already close, those can be the things that can break it not in your favor. So my number one biggest issue with the Bandits so far this year is that they have not been able to stay out of the box. They've got to be one of the most, if not the most penalized team in the league. They are in the box all the time, and sometimes they take those 5-minute majors. Those hurt. You've got a great goalie in Matt Vince, sure. You got a great team. When you're constantly shorthanded, that hurts.
Especially against a goalie like Christian Del Bianco.
Yes.
We need every guy we can get out there. And it's not even like, it would still be awful if we had one of our players who isn't like one of your top goal scorers or just like one of those guys you really need out there on the field taking penalty minutes. But when it's your captain or your assistant captain, like, you know better. Like, come on, guys. It's just, and it's little things like that that are going to put them above you. So, and I get it. Like, this is a very physical sport. You gotta play by the rules still. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's definitely it's leadership, and you know, I think that the Bandits have to rely on that. I'm very confident in the team. I think that, you know, until I see that they're not able to three-peat, I have it in their mind. Stay hopeful. Yes, we're going to manifest that they're going to three-peat. We got it, of course. Well, thanks as always for joining me, Lily. Hopefully the last 3 games go quite well. We're going to take a short break, and then Brock Papke is going to join me to talk about NASCAR. I will say that the Ottawa Senators did score a moment ago, so the Sabres still lead 3-1. We'll be back with more updates on the game as well as NASCAR. Brock will join me to talk about that. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
When you think of the local lowdown, what do you think of?
Well, when I think of the local lowdown, it's the live music that we have played in the studio.
It's got to be the laughs we shared, the memorable moments during the whole thing. Oh my God, so fun.
The local lowdown for me is the people behind the scenes, the amazing team that we have making the show.
Oh, it's got to be exploring all sorts of genres and music I've never heard before.
Oh, easy. Going out to shows and talking to artists and getting the latest news on what they have planned for the future.
It's about these artists, man. Giving them a platform to showcase what they've worked so hard on and show their music to the community. It's all about supporting the local scene of music to keep it running for years to come. And of course, the band merch. You can't forget about the merch.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Voltz. I'm now joined by Brock Packby to talk about NASCAR. So, Brock, Denny Hamlin, a dominant performance winning at Martinsville on Sunday. Your thoughts?
Good for him, man. Like, he has been killing it for the past few weeks. His first place, man, it was very dominant throughout the entire race. Logano, we will talk about him in a little bit. He won the first stage, but hey, Hamlin, man, you are really killing it throughout the entire race. Besides that first stage, but yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was his first Martinsville win since 2015, and it's obviously, I've talked about on the show before, I'm not the world's biggest Denny Hamlin fan, but you know, it is what it is.
It
so
is what he is, man.
I think that you're seeing early in the year, the first few races of the year, we talked about it, how Christopher Bell was absolutely dominating, and he's still first in the overall Cup standings. He's had a phenomenal season to this point, but I think now you're getting to the point where you're seeing other drivers are getting, and your usual suspects. I mean, Kyle Larson winning his first race of the season last week, Denny Hamlin winning on Sunday, and I think you'll see that sort of start to continue and pick up as the quote-unquote usual suspects, and hopefully my favorite driver, Chase Elliott, will start to pick up some wins.
Yeah, hopefully that were to happen. But yeah, Christopher Bell, he's been dominant throughout the entire season, and well, he copped himself a second place this time around. But we'll see with like how the rest of the season pulls out with this gentleman right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked about it a few weeks where we've gotten to a really, really fun stretch on the Cup Series schedule. Of course, Martinsville on Sunday, a very revered track. The next 3 tracks on the schedule going through the rest of April: at Darlington on Sunday coming up, then Bristol on April 13th. Then they have a week off, and then April 27th, they head down south to race at Talladega. That's a really fun and a really different 3-week stretch. Of course, they were at Martinsville, which is nicknamed the Paperclip because of its sort of shape, very similar to that. Darlington, also another smaller track. Cars are racing a lot closer together. There's the famed quote-unquote Darlington stripe that you can't get out of the racetrack without a Darlington stripe, where a lot of times there's a lot of contact with the wall, that sort of stuff, a lot of beating and banging throughout the race. You have the Food City 500 at Bristol. Of course, Bristol's the smallest track, and it's funny that you go from the smallest track to the biggest one in a span of 2 weeks, not consecutive weeks because they've got a week off. They don't race on April the 20th, but they go from Bristol to Talladega on the schedule, 2 very, very different styles of racing. The close, compact nature of Bristol and Darlington as well, and then of course the drafting superspeedway nature at Talladega.
Yeah, no, that entire stretch where you go from like the smallest track to like the biggest one of all, like Talladega and stuff. I've been mentioning this before. It's like the most legendary track on NASCAR history. They even made a hilarious movie about it, obviously. And well, the entire schedule leading up to it is going to be really intense, really exciting, and I'm really expecting it to have a little more crashes than normal because the smaller condensed little track that we're going to have to deal with, even though there was a crash in this race on itself with Logano. But that, I personally think Logano kind of deserved it because he was really reckless throughout the entire race. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's kind of been a theme that we've talked about this year. We talked about some reckless driving from Logano earlier on in the season, and I think, I mean, I have my own personal opinions on Logano. I think that he can be a rather arrogant driver, and nothing is ever the fault of the number 22 car. But that's not necessarily the most relevant conversation here. I think a bigger thing is the fact that you're waiting for the conversation to be more about Joey Logano's had a great season, he's run a great car, instead of the conversation being about Joey Logano's driven so recklessly and has caused all these accidents. And a lot of times, NASCAR has a policy. They don't really police drivers causing accidents because the drivers on the track police it themselves. You know, it's very common. We've seen that sort of payback The most famous example that I can think of was back in 2015 between Logano and Matt Kenseth when Logano spun out Kenseth going for the win at Kansas, and then was it Martinsville? Yes, it was at Martinsville when Kenseth rather was a lap down and Logano was contending for the win. Kenseth took him out.
Yeah.
And which was met by cheers
Yeah.
from the crowd. So NASCAR sort of has this mentality. They call it quote unquote boys have at it, and it literally they will refer to it. NASCAR doesn't obviously because they just kind of stay out of it because they know drivers are going to police it themselves. So they have this. It is the quote unquote boys have at it mentality where they say, all right, okay, if a driver is going to be reckless and cause a wreck, they're probably going to get that same treatment back next week or the week after or however far down the line. I mean, there were several years ago, there were some good fights in the Cup Series. I mean, the biggest one that I can think of was at Phoenix in 2012 between Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer, and which was awesome, by the way. Not that we're trying to promote fighting, but I was watching that live when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
One of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life.
That was amazing.
It was unbelievable. But anyways, I just remember seeing their pit crews get into it. We haven't seen that really in a few years, but I think that NASCAR has that mentality where, okay, if you're going to be reckless, the other drivers will police it themselves rather than NASCAR stepping in and doing anything with the sanctioning body.
Yeah, of course. Like that, there's been examples all over the place about like fighting and all that such, and crashes, of course, because there's nothing like a NASCAR race without a little crashes, and it's kind of funny that you just mentioned about Logano like a few years back when he got his like vengeance onto him, and then this happened like on Sunday, which is to me that's hilarious because he caused that crash and he got crashed in this Cookout Stadium, and now we're in this Cookout Stadium and he got crashed again. So just want to put that out there. A little coincidence, a little that, but hey, Logano, just stop. You're welcome.
It's interesting. So I just took a look at the Cup Series standings, and Christopher Bell is actually down at 4th, which is kind of surprising considering the fact that he's won 3 of the 7 races so far this year, and he's all the way down in 4th. But the top 3 are all Hendrick Motorsports drivers. You have William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott are the top 3 in the Cup Series standings. Now, of course, we're early in the season. I mean, it's a 36-race season, and we're only 7 races in.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting, the fact that those 3 Hendrick drivers have overtaken, and the 4th driver, Alex Bowman, is right behind Bell in 5th. So their 4-car team makes up 4 of the top 5. Not a surprise to see Hendrick near the top, but they've been really good so far this year.
Yeah, no, all 3 of them are doing fantastic. Byron was surprising me for a little bit right here, but hey, at least your favorite one is going up with that.
That's
as well.
true. That is true. My favorite driver, Chase Elliott, who I was in person to see his first career win.
Yeah.
That's the lore with my being a Chase Elliott fan, is that the only Cup Series race I've ever been to was 2018 Watkins Glen. I was there with my grandparents, and Chase Elliott won his first career race in his 99th start. It was blistering hot that day because it was in August. I was 14 years old, and I've never forgotten. I bought my Chase Elliott hat that day.
Yeah, I don't think you even told me that story. That's amazing.
Yep, I bought my Chase Elliott hat, my number 9 camo hat with the number 9 in orange. It is so super cool.
That's just amazing.
It was a great day.
That seems legendary on itself.
It was a great day. Well, I was a Dale Jr. fan too, and I wanted Jr. to sort of, after Jr. retired in 2017.
Yeah.
I was hoping that he would step up, but I think that the rest of the schedule is going to be fun to watch, and we'll see sort of how things play out. So thanks, as always, for joining me, Brock. Always a good time to talk to you. When we come back, the final segment of our show, Sam's going to be joining me to talk about Formula One. We'll be back in a few. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. All you do is sigh. So don't get post office for selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, selective service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time, just sign on the line at the post office for selective service.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF for the final segment of our show. Sam is joining me to talk about Formula One. So where are we at in the season? How are things looking so far?
We are 2 races into the season, with Australia being our first race over spring break weekend. It was a wild first race of the season. I feel as though it's probably going to set up how we're feeling for the 2025 season, with it being the wet race. It was a wet race, which meant that we had to watch all of the drivers struggle for about 2.5 hours. It was a wild race, I won't lie.
So when you say wet race, they're able to race in, was it actively raining or was it just the track was wet?
So it had rained, I think it was about 10 minutes prior to the race. So the track was wet and it actually ended up raining during the race. It only rained for about 1 or 2 laps, but it was heavy rain. Like it was like nonstop raining for those 2 laps. And it caused 6 drivers to DNF. They crashed, 6 cars crashed. One of them just put themselves in the gravel, but it was crazy. One of the drivers crashed on the formation lap, which is just the lap that they do right before the actual start of the race. It was a rookie, Isaac Hadjar. I felt really bad. It was his first ever race, and then F1 TV and like Sky Sports, the people who broadcast the race, were showing this rookie driver who crashed out of his first race basically just breaking down in his helmet while the race was going on. And I felt really bad. I was like, that's not something we should focus on. We should focus on the race, not this kid who should be left alone, basically.
Yeah, that happens a lot of times in sports, or, you know, for March Madness going on right now. How many times do you see athletes, as soon as, you know, an athlete who might have experienced the worst moment of their playing career, and all of a sudden a camera is shoved in their face? You know, I remember, to bring hockey into it, I remember back in 2014 when the Rangers lost in the Stanley Cup Final in overtime to the LA Kings. I remember the camera focusing so strongly on Henrik Lundqvist's face. And it's so interesting you bring that up, that it also happens in Formula One, that they focus on this poor race car driver who might have just had the worst moment of his racing career.
I know, it's insane. But in the race, I said we had 6 crashes. The first crash obviously happening in the formation lap. It made the race get pushed back about 5 minutes. Glad that the FIA has set a time for how far the race can be pushed back, because before they just went, we don't know, we're gonna set it 15 minutes maybe, 20 minutes. I'm glad that they set an exact time. It's either 5 to 15 minutes. I cannot remember exactly. But we get through lap 1, and we don't even get through lap 1 when another another rookie driver crashes. Jack Doohan crashes. I think it was in turn 10. He crashes into the wall. And then after the safety car comes out for him, the same lap, we have Carlos Sainz, who throws it into the wall, a experienced driver. He throws it into the wall under safety car, which is insane, right in front of the pit lane. So it's like right in front of the last straight, causing the safety car to be out for longer, because now we have 2 cars we have to get rid of the track before we can even continue racing.
Yeah, do they frequently race in the rain, or is that the type of thing where they kind of stop? Because I know in NASCAR they can.
They do, actually. They frequently race in the rain. So they have 5 tires. We have the hard, the medium, the soft. Those are our slicks. Soft being the fastest, hard being the longest lasting. And then for your wets, you have intermediate and wets. Intermediate is when it's just drying, and then wet is when the track is completely soaked and it's like you can't race in anything else. Sometimes they'll black flag it. I believe back in 2022 they black flagged Suzuka because it was that wet. But it has to get to a certain extent where the visibility is not there, or else they will race in the rain.
Right. That's so interesting how it's different across sports. I mean, I can tell you that in NASCAR they don't. They'll throw the race under a red flag and they'll delay it. But so you're a few races into the season. Where are we at in the standings?
In the standings, we are with Lando Norris as in first position. We have Max Verstappen in second, George Russell in third, and then we have Oscar Piastri in fourth, and a rookie, Kimi Antonelli, in fifth, which is insane. I cannot remember the last time we had a rookie in the top 5 of the standings.
So it's obviously early in the season, only being 2 races in, but you mentioned it's very surprising to see a rookie up, especially with those other names like Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. So who are some of the favorites to, and I know we've talked about it before, has that changed at all? Have any emerged that have been really surprising?
So honestly, not really. A lot of people were rooting for Kimi Antonelli purely because he is a rookie in the Mercedes, so he kind of has to perform well. Because if he doesn't, he's likely going to get dropped for a more experienced driver. So it's actually really impressive that he's up there. People were really hoping Carlos Sainz, myself as well, was hoping for Carlos Sainz to be doing really well. He isn't, actually, ironically. He crashed out in the first race, and he was only midfield in the second. I'm sad about that because leaving Ferrari, who's a top-tier team, for Williams, who's only a mid-tier team, was kind of saddening. I understand why he didn't want to go to Red Bull. No one really wants to be the second driver in Red Bulls because nobody likes being the second driver. But I was really upset when Carlos Sainz was just mid. It was really disappointing considering, like, coming from being a Ferrari Carlos Sainz fan to now. I enjoy Williams. Alex Albon is one of my favorite drivers on the grid behind Lando Norris. So,
yeah, it's interesting. So season starts now. You've got how many more races left on the schedule?
Oh,
I mean, many, of course.
Many. I think it's 20 races, okay. I believe. Either 20 or 22. I think we have 24 races in total. This weekend we have Japan, Suzuka. So it's going to be an interesting race. The drama has already started. Liam Lawson, who was picked up by Red Bull over the summer after they dropped Sergio Perez, they picked him up. He underperformed, got dropped in qualifying session 1 in both Australia and China. And then underperformed Max Verstappen by severe. He finished 15th in the second race, and then he DNF'd in the first one. So he got dropped for, Red Bull was trying to get Alex Albon from what I heard, but Alex was kind of like, no, I'm not coming back to you guys because he raced for Red Bull before. So they finally went and chose the more experienced driver, Yuki Tsunoda, who had been racing for VCARB, the junior team of Red Bull, for several years now. They went and picked up Yuki for his home race, which is Japan. So I'm excited. I'm also really nervous because the Red Bull, at least the second car, has not been good at all. It's said that Sergio Perez has mentioned this for years, and Red Bull just kind of denied it until Max was slowly starting to get outperformed by everybody else on the field. So now they're finally slowly starting to realize that this car is not very good, but I have a feeling they aren't actually going to do anything about it. Instead, they're just going to trade around drivers until they're like, well, what else can we do?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I know teams, you have your one headline driver, does as much attention get paid to the sort of secondary drivers, and I know that's a thing in other motorsports as well. So the rest of how things play out with Red Bull, it's kind of, no one wants to play second in command to Max Verstappen, as iconic and as good as he is, of course, and that's certainly understandable. But any other thoughts on the Formula One season so far?
Honestly, not that many. Formula One has been, I wouldn't say boring. There isn't very much drama yet, which is kind of sad coming from a person who loves the drama that comes along with these men just driving around a track. But I will say, I found this out just recently. The F1 movie is getting released soon, which really controversial when it came to just the driver's opinion of the movie, because there was a car, I think they were driving around the track while the other cars were driving around the track, like the camera car, the actor's car. I remember at one point during, I don't remember if it was Singapore or if it was Monza, they had the drivers redo the trophy handing ceremony to put the actor Brad Pitt in the first step, keeping George Russell on second and Charles Leclerc on third, which was kind of embarrassing considering Charles lost out to, I think it was Max at that race.
Oh.
And it was it's a very controversial thing, but it's coming out on June 27th, and I'm really excited to see it.
Nice. Well, we look forward to that, and it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Formula One season shapes out. Well, that'll do it for tonight's episode of Sports Hour. I want to thank all of my co-hosts as well as everyone behind the scenes who make this show possible, and of course all of you watching at home. We will catch you next week. I'm Matt Volz, and you've been watching Sports Hour on WNYF. Good night.